There are only two ways out of a postdoc trap. The first way is to become an academic in your own right. That is, get a promotion within your current university or find a university where you sort of satisfy some key metrics, and we'll talk about that later. The second thing to do is to get up and leave your postdoc. This is incredibly difficult. I can't describe how, when I left my postdoc, how helpless I felt, because it just felt like I was throwing away everything that I'd worked so hard for, when in fact I should have viewed it as the start of something much better for me. And we'll talk about the steps that we need to go through. So first of all, if you do want to become an academic, these are the realities of what your postdoc should be focused on. Take a really long, hard look at where you currently are in your postdoc. It can be very confronting to compare yourself to others, to have a look at the field, but in my experience, there are 4 things you really need to look at and focus on during your postdoc, and if you're not competitive in at least 3 out of these 4, it really is time to think about moving outside of academia and into the real world. Take control. So the first thing are papers. Does your publication record actually match what other people in the field are doing right now? Are you in the top 10% at least? If you can't point at your publication record and say, this is better than most people's, you're going to struggle. The second thing is bringing in money. If you have not at least brought in a little bit of money, or you haven't been successful, even on someone else's grant as a named sort of investigator, like a co-investigator on a grant, you'll probably really struggle to convince a university to give you a job as an academic. The third thing is alignment with the university's research priorities. Does your research match intimately, or is it sort of like helpful to other people in your department? If you have sort of like chiseled out a little niche in your department and you can help others by providing skills that they can't do in their research groups, that's also another great way to show how valuable you are and that you should actually become an academic. What collaborations have you got in the department? All of these are very important. If you don't have that strength in the department right now that you're in, where can you find a department where your skills will slot in perfectly to what they need and their research priorities? Because I have seen loads of people who are incredibly talented at what they do, but they don't sort of match the department very well. They haven't sort of been able to fit into that department, and that is really sad to see. So they have to go elsewhere, or they have to leave their postdoc. So make sure your research is highly aligned to the department and the skills that it needs to keep there, to keep on publishing. I hope that makes sense. And the fourth thing that is becoming more and more important is, are you building up a good reputation for the university? Are you a known entity? I've seen this being done really, really well. If you can actually start reaching out to the university comms team, start reaching out to journalists, science journalists in your area, and start building up a good reputation about you and your work, you can go much further than if you just rely on your papers, your publications, your relationships, and the money you bring in. Those 4 things are so very important. And if you do not sort of excel in at least 3 of them, it's going to be very difficult to find a permanent position at a university. So if you want to get out, you can go up, but those 4 things make it very difficult. You need to be the top of the top. And that brings me on to my second way out, which is to take control. It is arguably the hardest thing to do, and I've done it, and this is the reality. Leaving to do something else seems like it's an easy thing to do, right? If you say to people, why don't you just leave and find a job elsewhere? It just seems so easy, and it is not. And I can tell you that. There are tons of things that play into making it not easy. There are tons of jobs and roles out there that do actually require highly skilled, educated people. You can enter government. There are industry jobs. There are even jobs within the university you're working at right now, like research support teams, working with students, going into a teaching-focused role. Those were becoming more and more popular in Australia. Unfortunately, though, teaching was seen as a kind of punishment for not being very good at research. So there was a kind of weird shift that needed to happen for people to actually want to take that teaching role. But now I think we're starting to see more and more teaching focused positions in universities across the world. But leaving your current role as a postdoc is incredibly difficult. I experienced a lot of sense of failure, that it was overwhelming. I had to lie to myself and others to actually say, yes, this is what I want to do. And it is a very hard thing to want to take control of your own career. It is empowering if you can do it. But a lot of the time, people that get into this kind of postdoc treadmill, they become passive. They're like, where is the money coming from to keep me on? You know, their security in their career is dependent on other people getting money. And once I reached that point in my career, I didn't feel empowered, it didn't feel good, it didn't feel kind of liberating and exciting like research used to. It just felt like I was begging the whole time. And so that's when I took it upon myself to want to leave. And you have to want to leave, and you have to start looking for jobs way earlier than you think. Even now, if there's that small little inkling in the back of your mind being like, you should leave, you should start looking for jobs, start networking, start looking at things you actually do want to do. Find the enjoyment in the outside world of the sort of roles or positions that you would find interesting, if nothing else. And slowly but surely, you'll build up those networks and you'll have options. Having options is so empowering. It's something I had and I made for myself by focusing on science communication. I entered a internship where I was writing for Cosmos magazine straight out of my postdoc, and it felt good to have someone else that wanted my skills and that I wanted to contribute to their kind of area, which was science journalism at the time. So it does really kind of help if you have options for yourself, because otherwise the funding dries up, you feel sad, you've lost your job, and you haven't taken control. Leaving a postdoc does require you to push through some of those emotional and mental barriers. But let me tell you something, as someone who's done it, it's completely worth it. And I am far happier now than I ever was during any part of my research career. And it wasn't always like that. So let's talk about that. The uncertainty about the job that I wanted to do was paralyzing at times. I knew that I had to leave, but it was always like, if I get that extra grant, if I get that extra position, if I can get those extra papers, maybe, just maybe, it will start a snowball that will send my career skyrocketing and I won't have to leave academia. And the feelings of failure go deep. You feel as if you've let everyone down. Everyone that supported you up until that point, you feel like then you're just kind of chucking in the towel and being like, oh, now it's too difficult, so I'm off. And so you do have to kind of work through those mental barriers and hurdles, because if you're not fully committed to getting a job outside of academia, it will be much harder for you, it will take much longer, and you're just prolonging the pain, essentially. So tackling it head on was my best way of making sure that I stayed in control. And let me tell you this, the uncertainty is paralyzing, but the good news is that you can change and shift your career once you're outside. And that's what I did. I started as a science journalist. I started doing stuff for different science publications. And then I did a freelance thing for about a year. And then I started my own startup. And then, I just changed so many times. And it may not be that the first career you enter outside of your academic career is the one you're going to stay in forever. But let me tell you that you slowly do work out what is important to you and where you should go with the skills and the opportunities that are open to you. So it has been quite a kind of journey for me, but escaping the postdoc trap was difficult. But now I look back on it as a time where I was actually quite deeply unhappy. And so the pain I had to go through, the uncertainty, the feelings of failure, the fact that my first 2 or 3 careers that I thought I would do didn't really quite work out, it doesn't matter anymore. And I think if you keep on trying, you keep on pushing towards the type of lifestyle you want, the type of jobs that you want, you will find success. And success means different things for different people. For some people, it's about earning lots of money. If I wanted that, I would have become a patent attorney. I would have gone back to uni. I would have, really sort of like looked at money as success. And that's just not who I am. Instead, I wanted, some freedom. I wanted to help people, and I wanted, to do it all on my own terms, selfishly, without a job, a boss. And that's what I've ended up finding. So look at what success means to you, and don't give up really, or changing jobs or changing tacts and careers until you've found that thing, because it is possible, and there is a much better life outside of academia that I think awaits so many more people than actually realize it. So there we have it. There's everything I think you need to know about escaping the postdoc trap. It is scary, it is confronting, but if you're not being promoted, it's time to leave. If you're not the top of the top in those 4 areas, bringing in money, bringing in papers, fitting in perfectly with a department's needs, requirements, and wants, or you're not sort of like, getting your name out there and bringing in great publicity to the university. If you're not hitting at least 3 of those really well, you're just not going to be competitive enough. And that's the unfortunate reality. And it's time to take control and start forging your own path. All right. Let me know in the comments what you would add. Have you left a postdoc? What did you do to make it awesome? And are you still searching, which is also perfectly okay. There are a few more ways to engage with me. The first way is to check out my newsletter. It's completely free. So go onto andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. The link is in the description. And when you sign up, you'll get 5 emails over about 2 weeks. Everything from the tools I use, the podcasts I've been on, the perfect daily schedule, how to write the perfect abstract, and more. It's exclusive content available for free, so you're not going to miss out on anything. And you'll get all the value right into your inbox. And the second thing you should do is go check out academiainsider.com. That's my new project where I've got my ebooks, the Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the PhD Survival Guide. And I have the forum and I have a blog growing out there as well. So go check out that and let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.